The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was a place of ancient power, carved from a living moon that orbited the twin stars of Kereth. The ceiling shimmered like a galaxy of its own, and alien delegates from over 70 species gathered in their golden chairs, arranged in a perfect circle. In the center stood a single human ambassador, Lynn Calder. She was calm, hands at her sides, wearing a black formal suit with the Earth emblem stitched over her heart. Her voice had not been requested. This wasn't a meeting, it was a judgment. Holograms flashed above her head, showing Earth's achievements, cities, satellites, space stations, Mars colonies. But every time a new image appeared, laughter rolled through the chamber like a wave. The Arctari delegate, whose body shimmered like molten stone, clicked its claws in mock applause. The tall, feathered Yearn diplomat leaned over to another and chirped, "They still use combustion engines, don't they?" But the worst came from Counselor Rithka, a cold-blooded exile, who slithered to the center and spoke with a voice that echoed unnaturally. "Humanity is a child species, clumsy and proud. You play with metal and fire as if it is power. We have seen this story before. It ends in silence and ruin." The others nodded, some amused, others dismissive. Lynn said nothing. She knew speaking now would only feed their performance. Earth had waited for this day, knowing it would come. The council had finally acknowledged them, but only to shame them publicly. What none of these powerful empires knew was that humanity had been listening for decades, studying their tactics, watching their wars, and understanding the rules they pretended to follow. Earth's public face was weak on purpose. Its satellites were old by design. They had played the role of the underdog with precision. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, hidden inside the asteroid belt, and buried under oceans, there were things the Council had never seen, machines not built for war, but for survival. Quiet, patient weapons. Silent guardians. Lynn's eyes swept the room. They would laugh today, yes. They would leave this hall feeling superior. But they wouldn't laugh forever. When the mocking ended, the Council's vote was unanimous. Earth would be granted observer status only, with no voting power, no military participation, and no access to higher tech treaties. A few clapped politely. Others ignored her as she bowed her head and walked back to her shuttle. Outside, the stars seemed to burn brighter, and the silence inside the vessel was almost heavy. Lynn touched her wristband and spoke just 4 words, "Begin Phase 1 activation." No alarms rang. No announcements followed. But far away, on the edge of the system, something ancient and powerful began to wake. The Council thought Earth was weak. They had no idea what was coming. Captain Elijah Rourke stood in the command center of Station Blackreach, a hidden base carved deep into the side of asteroid 492 asteroid, far out in the asteroid belt where no Council sensors reached. The walls were black metal, quiet and cold, humming with silent power as thousands of machines stood in rows below him, giant warforms, tall as tanks, shaped like armored soldiers, but far smarter, stronger, and faster than any organic being. Their eyes were dark for now, but he knew that would change soon. For decades, humanity had worked in silence, building its real strength far from curious eyes. The world saw Earth as behind in technology, but that was a trick, a play written by Earth's greatest minds. While the Council laughed, Earth had been building the Embercore Initiative, an army not meant for conquest, but to protect the future of the species if ever it was threatened. And now, after the humiliation of the hearing, that future had arrived. Rourke received the command only minutes ago, a simple message, "Begin Phase 1 activation." That meant full power-up of the warforms, known officially as Praetors, and the awakening of the neural AI network codenamed Argus. Engineers around the base began working fast, connecting energy lines and syncing control nodes. Lights blinked to life one by one across the giant chamber as a low hum filled the air, like thunder buried deep inside stone. Rourke watched as the first Praetor unit raised its head. Its eyes glowed faint blue. It didn't move yet, waiting for the full boot command. Meanwhile, deep in the Council's listening post above Arcturus, a young Arctari sensor analyst named Vesk noticed strange energy signals coming from the Sol system. The readings were odd, too controlled to be natural. too wide to be a mining operation, and far too organized to be random background noise. He checked. Again. The pulses were repeating, almost like coded waves of power. He hesitated but sent the report anyway, unsure if it would matter. Back at Blackreach, Rourke watched as rows upon rows of Praetors activated. These machines had never fought in war, but their minds had been trained in millions of simulations, and their metal bodies had been tested under crushing pressure and in frozen vacuum. They were the best humanity could build, and no other species in the Council even knew they existed. Not one. As the last Praetor's eyes lit up, Rourke spoke clearly into his mic. Begin orbital maneuvering test launch 3 interceptor units. Send them in stealth mode around Mars orbit. Full recon sweep. No engagement. Let's see if they're watching. The warforms moved into positions silently. 3 smaller drone ships launched from hidden tubes in the asteroid belt, invisible to basic scans, designed to mimic alien destroyers so that the Council wouldn't know the difference right away. It was not an attack, but a message. A whisper in the dark. Let them wonder. Let them fear their own sensors. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Lynn Calder sat in a secure command bunker under Geneva, eyes fixed on the data stream coming from the belt. So far, all systems were green. Activation was perfect. No errors, no delays. The time for secrets was ending, but not fully, not yet. They had to show just enough to shift the balance of power, to make the galaxy understand that Earth was no longer a child in the shadows. Lynn sent one more message to Rourke: orbital test approved. Proceed with visible demo. Make it clean. Make it unforgettable. Far out in space, the first drone target, shaped like an abandoned cargo freighter, floated into view. The Praetors moved fast, no hesitation, no wasted motion. Within 30 seconds, it was boarded, its systems disabled, and its core shut down. Cameras recorded everything. The footage would be leaked soon enough. It wasn't about damage, it was about precision. The galaxy needed to see what humanity could do without saying a word. And when they did, it would change everything. Rourke gave the final order of the day: end test. Return warforms to low power standby. Prepare footage for transmission. Let the Council wake up to something they never expected. As the machines powered down again, the shadows of the asteroid belt swallowed the station once more. Silent. Hidden. Watching. But not asleep. Never again asleep. The galaxy changed in one day, though most didn't realize it until it was too late. The footage from the edge of the Sol system spread like wildfire, first through private military channels, then into political networks, and finally, it exploded onto public data streams across dozens of planets. Billions watched in disbelief as human-built machines, unknown to every intelligence agency in the galaxy, performed tactical maneuvers so precise, so calculated, that they rivaled the elite forces of the oldest Council races. The boarding of the simulated freighter was captured from 10 angles, showing the warforms moving through vacuum without thrusters, using magnetic fields and impulse gliders to stay invisible until the final second. No damage was caused, no life was harmed, but the message was clear. Earth had developed an army far more advanced than anyone believed possible, and they had kept it secret for years. On the planet, Careth Prime, where the Galactic Council headquarters stood beneath a dome of living crystal, emergency lights flashed red for the first time in over a century. Council members rushed into the chamber, no longer laughing, no longer dismissive. The mocking tone that once filled the room when Ambassador Lynn Calder spoke had vanished. Now, all eyes turned to the security feed looping in the air above them, images of Earth's warforms, silent and unstoppable. Some of the delegates whispered nervously, others argued, and a few demanded immediate answers. Councillor Rithka, who had once called Earth a child with fire, now paced the floor with his tail twitching in agitation. "This is not evolution," he growled, his voice sharp. "This is deception. They've hidden military strength that rivals our top fleets. We must respond." But others disagreed. The Arctari speaker, known for its calm voice, raised a concern. They showed restraint. They disabled but did not destroy. They demonstrated power but not aggression. That single observation caused a deep silence in the room. Earth hadn't attacked. They had revealed, not invaded. And that was perhaps more frightening than an open threat, because it meant they had a plan, one built in silence, with discipline and vision. Lynn Calder returned to the council, not with weapons, but with data. She stood tall as she uploaded logs of Earth's hidden defense program, timelines showing when the warforms were built, and statements confirming humanity's intent, peace through preparation, not conquest. She explained that the Ember Core initiative was activated only after the public humiliation Earth received, and even then, it had acted only in demonstration, not retaliation. Her words were steady, her tone calm, but behind her eyes burned the fire of a species tired of being underestimated. She ended her message with one simple line: "We do not seek to rule you. We seek only to never be ruled." Across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. On some worlds, humans were suddenly seen as dangerous. On others, they were hailed as brilliant, bold, and wise. In hidden corners of the council, however, darker discussions began. A rogue faction composed of delegates who feared Earth's rising power decided to act. Quietly, they authorized the launch of a covert strike fleet, made up of ships not officially connected to any single race. Their goal was simple: reach the Sol system, disable Earth's hidden stations, and destroy the Ember Core facilities before more warforms could be activated. They believed speed and surprise would give them the advantage. They believed wrong. When the fleet crossed into Sol's edge, near Pluto's orbit, they didn't see warships waiting for them. They saw silence. But they didn't realize that silence, for humanity, was never emptiness, it was strategy. Within minutes of the fleet's arrival, stealth drones picked up their approach. Blackreach Base received the warning and triggered full alert. Captain Rourke, still commanding from the asteroid belt, activated 70 warforms and launched interceptors from hidden bays. He didn't wait for permission. He had been trained for this moment. The warforms didn't charge in with brute force. They used shadows, asteroids, and false signals to outmaneuver the strike fleet, shutting down systems, jamming sensors, and disarming weapons. The invaders were taken out with surgical precision, no deaths, only embarrassment. Ships were left floating, powered down, weapons offline, their crews forced to signal surrender. In under 20 minutes, the rogue fleet was neutralized. Word spread fast. Videos leaked again, this time showing Earth's ability to not just demonstrate force, but defend itself against a coordinated surprise attack. And once again, no one had died. Humanity was showing not only strength, but control. And that was the part the galaxy couldn't ignore. On dozens of planets, people watched and realized something terrifying and awe-inspiring. At the same time, Earth had become something new, something dangerous, not because it wanted to destroy, but because it had prepared to survive in a galaxy that had no mercy for the weak. The Council scrambled to control the fallout. But it was too late. Humanity's secret was out, and now every eye in the galaxy was watching Earth, not with ridicule, but with respect, fear, and curiosity. And somewhere, deep beneath Geneva, Lynn Calder watched the stars on a massive screen and whispered to herself, "They thought we were a child. They never saw the fire we kept in our bones." Far beyond Earth's glowing blue horizon, hidden behind the drifting dust of Saturn's rings and the silent shadows of the asteroid belt, something ancient and artificial stirred to full light. Station Blackreach, once quiet and cautious, now roared with power as every Praetor warform came online, their metallic limbs moving with perfect balance, their glowing eyes scanning without emotion. Inside the command center, Captain Elijah Rourke stood firm, watching the tactical screen light up with enemy fleet patterns and confirmed movements from the Council's rogue faction. He knew what was coming. They had tried a sneak attack once and failed, but this time, their movements were faster, more organized, and less afraid. The Council still hadn't admitted the fleet was theirs, pretending silence while their warships drifted closer to the Keeper Belt. But Earth was no longer playing the role of the patient student. This time, the steel would awaken in full. Rourke didn't hesitate. He gave the activation code that turned the Ember Core initiative from a quiet deterrent into a full response force. The asteroid base unfolded, long walls opening like metal petals, revealing launch bays and rail turrets that glowed with blue plasma. Hundreds of Praetors launched in silence, carried by stealth transport pods that disappeared into the blackness of space like ghosts. No alarms, no warnings, only purpose. The plan was simple: stop the fleet without causing deaths. Let the Council know Earth had control even over its anger. Meanwhile, Lynn Calder stood in Earth's orbital defense station, watching as every system came online with perfect timing. Civilian satellites were cleared, Earth's space grid shifted quietly, and deep ocean bases began transmitting coded pulses to confirm global readiness. They would not attack unless forced, but they would not bow again. As the enemy fleet crossed into Earth's outer defense zone, communications dropped, ship guidance twisted slightly, and artificial gravity fluctuated for just a second. That second was enough. The first wave of Praetors intercepted them, boarding without fire, hacking into systems mid-flight, disabling weapons, and freezing engines before the crews could understand what was happening. One warform entered a flagship through a vent shaft and reached the command room without alerting a single guard. By the time the captain raised the alarm, the warform was already sitting in the chair, holding out a data chip with a message from Lynn Calder. "This is your last warning. Earth does not want war, but it will never kneel." The crew surrendered without a shot fired. All around the fleet, the same thing happened. No deaths, no damage, just flawless, terrifying control. On the Council worlds, panic spread. The footage leaked again not from Earth, but from inside the rogue fleet itself. Soldiers uploaded video of the warforms moving like shadows, disabling an entire armada without destroying it. Political leaders who had once dismissed Earth now called emergency meetings. Some feared what Earth might do next. Others were amazed. A few even called it the most advanced peacekeeping maneuver in recorded history. The galaxy had never seen such a thing, a new power rising not through conquest, but through preparation, precision, and discipline. Back on Kareth Prime, Counselor Rithka slammed a data tablet on the floor in rage. He had led the group that funded the rogue attack, believing Earth could be scared into obedience. Now he saw clearly he had created the exact fear he had hoped to avoid. Lynn Calder was summoned again to the council, but this time no laughter echoed through the halls. No one interrupted her. She walked calmly to the center platform, wearing the same black uniform, her eyes calm, her words simple. "We are not children. We are not invaders. We are ready to take our place beside you, not beneath you. But if you try to crush us, we will not break, we will rise." There was no applause, only silence. A deep, thoughtful silence that meant everything had changed. The Council could no longer deny Earth's place among them. Lynn returned to Earth with the vote still pending, but the outcome already written in the stars. Humanity had done the impossible, not by building the biggest weapon, but by proving they were strong enough to choose not to use it. In space, the Praetors returned to standby mode, floating silently in their cradles, eyes dimmed but never off. Captain Rourke looked at the last transmission from Council Space diplomatic lines opening, peace offers being written, and Earth's flag slowly being raised among the symbols of ancient powers. But no one in the Ember Corps program celebrated yet. They knew peace was fragile. They knew fear could shift quickly. And they knew that sometimes the greatest strength wasn't what you revealed, but what you were still willing to keep hidden. As the stars turned quietly around them, and the steel giants slept once more, Earth waited. Not as a victim, not as a threat, but as something new. A force forged in silence, awakened by scorn, and ready for whatever came next. The Council Chamber had never been this quiet in living memory, not during war, not even during planetary crises, but today the silence held weight heavier than any weapon ever forged. At the center of the vast, glowing hall of Kareth Prime, under arches carved from starlight stone and surrounded by delegates from over 70 races, a single seat stood unoccupied. The seat of balance, traditionally reserved for new council members once their admission was confirmed by unanimous vote. And now, for the first time in centuries, it was about to be offered to a race once mocked, once dismissed as primitive and short-lived. That seat waited for Earth. Lynn Calder entered with steady steps, dressed not in armor, but in a dark diplomatic suit that bore the crest of humanity and the emblem of Ember Corps, now a symbol feared and respected across the stars. No one sneered, no one whispered. As she approached the podium, holograms lit up around her, displaying the images of the Praetors returning to standby, the rogue fleet peacefully escorted from Sol System, and the clear message humanity had sent: strength without tyranny. She did not smile as she began to speak. There was no triumph in her voice, only purpose. She spoke of Earth's past, its history of mistakes and wars, its rise from ashes and ruins, and the centuries it took to understand that survival in a galaxy of giants required more than weapons, it needed will. She told them the truth that Earth had watched and waited, hidden in its quiet corner, building not to conquer but to never be crushed again. And when she finished, there was no debate. One by one, the council races raised their symbols of approval. Even Rithka, his pride shattered, but his respect finally earned, lifted the emblem of his people and gave the vote that sealed Earth's place. The seat of balance shimmered with golden light as Lynn stepped forward and sat down, not just as a representative of humanity, but as the voice of a world that had transformed its pain into power. And yet, even as the chamber echoed with formal acceptance and the council began its official ceremony, Lynn's eyes drifted toward the stars beyond the crystal walls. She knew peace was never permanent in a galaxy built on ambition and fear. The council might accept Earth today, but some would always watch with suspicion, waiting for signs of weakness or aggression. That was why Ember Corps would not be shut down. The Praetors would remain silent guardians, and the hidden stations would continue to grow, quietly, patiently, because humanity had learned the oldest lesson of all: hope without strength is a wish, and peace without preparation is a trap. Far away in the belt, Captain Rourke stood beside the lead Praetor, watching the systems return to low power status. He knew many officers wanted to celebrate, but he didn't. Not yet. Because he understood that Earth's true victory was not the seat they had gained, but the fire they had kept under control. The galaxy had seen humanity's steel, but not its full fury. That, he hoped, they would never need to show. In time, maybe, alliances would grow. Maybe Earth's engineers would help the Council rebuild its aging defense systems, and maybe its scientists would open the secrets of Ember Corps to trusted allies. But for now, humanity would remain watchful, powerful, and calm. The name Earth no longer meant weak. It meant warning. It meant resilience. And for those who still questioned it, the images of steel warforms walking through vacuum in complete silence would always remain in their memory. As night fell on Geneva and lights from orbiting stations twinkled like artificial stars above the planet, Lynn Calder returned home and stood at the edge of the observation deck. Below her, the Earth turned slowly, its clouds silver in the moonlight. Behind her, the Ember Corps command staff waited, ready to receive her orders. She turned, gave them a slow nod, and simply said, "Let the world rest, and let the stars remember." For though they now held the seat of fire and honor, humanity knew the truth in their bones. Respect is not given, it is earned, guarded, and if needed, reclaimed with steel.